Touchdown Tampa Bay, you're listening to the Pewtercast.
Welcome to the Pewtercast. This is our final thoughts episode for the Bucs versus Bengals game. Although, I got to tell you, I got a feeling this might not be the last word that we have on this game. We might be coming back to this over the course of the season. My name is Brent Allen. I will be your host, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Ren Dax. Ren, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good, man. What's shaking? How was the T-ball game?
T-ball. My son is in his final season of T-ball. God, I hope it's his final season. I hope I'm right about that.
They can't hold him back, can they?
No, they can't, but I'm like the way the age system works, I'm pretty sure this is his last season of T-ball and he moves up to the next level. It sucked, man. I got to tell you. It went late, and they started an inning like right as the whole thing was supposed to be wrapping up. And when you're playing with 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, and you're starting innings at 8 o'clock, I mean, most of these kids are starting to head towards bed at that time, you know.
Right.
And so everybody's just getting loopy, and you know those kids are hard enough. So, it was a trying game, and so I am coming fresh off of that. So if I seem a little snippy tonight, just understand I'm a little worn out after having to mess around with that crew for an extended amount of time tonight. But
we'll just trade places. We'll just trade personalities for the evening.
Yeah, all right. You're going to be the ever hopeful one with crazy theories.
I'll be the affable guy that asks random dumb quitter questions.
There you go. Do that. Do that. And nobody slide up into my DMs telling me anything. I don't want to hear it.
There you go. See? There you go. Fine. Well, here's the big question. You said like 4 and 5-year-olds or 5 and 6-year-olds?
It's 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, yeah.
4, 5, and 6-year-olds. Here's the thing. Were there any interceptions in the game?
Absolutely not. And you want to know why? Because Jameis Winston does not play on my T-ball team. Hey-o!
So one would think, I'm just throwing this out there.
Uh-huh.
One would think that if 4, 5, and 6-year-olds can go through a whole game and not throw an interception, that you think an NFL quarterback could do as well.
You know, you think it might. But
apparently not, and here we are.
And we're here to talk about it as part of our final thoughts episode. This is going to be a good episode tonight, Ren. I'm really excited for it. Of course, we are going to be getting to all the final thoughts now that we've had some time to think about the game. We had the instant cast, right? Got to get all that flushed out right after the game. Took lots of phone calls. It went almost a half hour longer than that show normally does, although that show has been getting a little longer and longer each week here lately, it seems. However, we kind of got all that out. But now that we've had a chance to think about it, we've had a chance to digest it, maybe even watch the game again a time or two, and now we get to kind of with cooler heads get to talk about maybe some of the things we didn't get to, or see if any of our opinions and thoughts have changed, and we'll certainly grade out the game. So that'll be coming up. But also in this episode, Ren, super excited for this, we are going to be joined by JC Cornell of the Draft Network. He is the founder and CEO of the Draft Network, and he is going to be joining us for a show that we've kind of been talking about, or at least I have, since the offseason. Because if you remember, Ren, back during the offseason, people would ask me, hey, what'd you think of the free agent signings? What'd you think of the draft picks? And I said, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to wait till about week 6 of the season, see how they're performing, and then we'll come back and revisit it and actually talk about how the offseason acquisitions are. And so we're going to be going back and revisiting that. So JC is going to join us for that discussion as we look at our draft picks, as well as some of our free agent signings. JC also happens to be a big Bucs fan, so can't wait to dive into that with him, find out more about what he's doing over at the Draft Network. And then in the second half of our show, fans, hey, listen, you know the drill at this point. Second half, that means it's your half. We're going to get to your emails, your questions, your comments, maybe even an iTunes review or two. Maybe not. Depends if you guys left us any. And all of that we're going to get to on today's episode of the Pewtercast.
I've been waiting on the sunset, bills on my mindset, I can't deny it, getting higher than my income's breadcrumbs, I've been trying to survive, the glow that the sun sun gets right around sunset. Helps me to realize that this is just a journey. Drop your worries. You are gonna turn out fine. Oh, you turn out fine. Fine. Oh, you turn out fine. But you gotta keep your head up. Oh, and you can let your head down. Hey, you gotta keep your head up. Oh, and you can let your head down. Hey, I know it's hard. No, it's hard to remember sometimes. But you gotta keep your head up. Oh, and you can let your head down. Hey, 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 hey. I got my hands.
I am a diehard Buccaneers fan. So I was actually born out in Los Angeles and then moved to Sarasota, Florida for kindergarten to fourth grade. I moved around most of my life, so I was only here for that time, but I fell in love with the Bucs as a kid. I went to the first game at Ray J Stadium. So it was something, you know, I've always been passionate about. They're really the only sports team like that. Well, them and UCLA as a college are my two passions. And of course the Lightning. I was a season ticket holder for the Lightning.
Now, you don't only do that, but you're also the founder and CEO of the Draft Network. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Draft Network actually probably was formed because of me being a Bucs fan and not making the playoffs, or not winning a playoff game, I should say, in 15 years. I've become obsessed with the draft. I go to the draft every year, and I hope my players get taken, and they never do by the Bucs. I'll go more into our last year's draft class in a little bit, but the Draft Network. I have a lot of talented guys, a lot of talented scouts. Got some big personalities in John Ledyard, Joe Marino, Kyle Krabs, Trevor Sikkema, Connor Rogers, and we have rising stars and Ben Solak and Brad Kelly. Just a lot of football knowledge on the staff, and we focus on our website on making making them better, becoming the expert, I should say. Sorry. That's our motto, like become the expert, learn more about the draft, see it in kind of like a scout's eye. And we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. We're going to have a mock draft simulator launching in January. Not only that, we'll have a build your own big board, which, you know, football fans can, you know, share their thoughts. You know, it's just a cool way with the draft, because the draft is growing at a rapid pace and getting more and more popular. So we we started our own thing, and it's been going awesome, and we're looking forward to the future.
Man, that's cool. And, you know, obviously we see we're pretty familiar with Trevor, you know, being here with the Pewter Report, and then obviously what he does with Locked On Draft. I didn't actually know that he was associated with you guys, so that's really cool. I'm looking at your team page right now on your website, so that's pretty awesome. And then obviously John Ledyard, we know him as well. Know of him. I can't say I've ever met him or talked to him. So, man, that is awesome. Now, I hope you will forgive me. But if for anyone who listens to the show and has through at least any of the draft seasons that we've covered it, I am not a fan of mock drafts. Like, so much so that I hate doing mock drafts. I really do. They drive me up a wall because they're never right, you know? But that's why I depend on people like you and Trevor and my co-host Ren. Like, I depend on you guys to kind of inform me what's going on, you know? And then when we get on the backside and we find out who we actually drafted, that's when I turn to you guys and I go, okay, now tell me about this guy. All right, what should I know about him? I don't care about the other 483 people that went somewhere else. I want to know about our guys.
Yeah, we have scouting reports on every player that's basically draft eligible. You can click on their bios and learn as much as you want about them through our eyes, and get their strengths and their weaknesses. So that's something you can do on the Draft Network.
That's awesome. Well, that's actually exactly why I wanted you here on this part of the show today. We are talking about, this will be part of the bigger idea of our final thoughts on our Bengals versus Browns game, or Bengals versus Bucs game. Holy cow. Too many B's. But you know, way back in the offseason, and obviously being a Bucs fan, you understand the hype that went into the 2017 season, and then the utter sheer disappointment that came out of it.
Of course.
You know, and back last year, we're like, we heard Dirk Cutter say it on Hard Knocks, right? This is the best Buccaneers roster that we've had since, at the time he said since Jameis has been on the team, really for a long time in Tampa, not just since Jameis has been there. quite possibly, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go all the way back to the Super Bowl team. I don't know that I could do that because honestly, I don't know. But it's been a while. It was touted as the best team in 5-11. Whatever. So we come out this year, we have a bunch of free agent signings, and then obviously the draft picks. We went in with, I think, 6 draft picks and wound up getting 8 players out of the draft. And I said in the offseason, people were asking me about my evaluation of it, and I said, you know what? I kind of learned my lesson off of last year. I don't know. I don't know about these guys. I want to give them till about week 6 or so of the season, and then I want to go back and evaluate those guys. And we had a couple people email us into the show kind of reminding me of that, saying, hey, it's past week 6. What are you guys going to do? So that's what we're going to do today, JC. We're going to kind of go through. We're going to take a look at our free agents. And then, and I know you'll have opinions on all of those guys, but especially, through your eyes as draft pick, not just how were they as a pickup back in April, but how do you think they've played out? How is it working so far? So let's start with the free agents, and then we can finish up off the good stuff for you with the draft picks. So
Sounds good.
A couple of free agents. We'll start with the 2 guys that we actually brought back this year. Brent Grimes, how do you feel like he has panned out there?
Brent Grimes, I think, goes under this Dirk Cutter, Mike Smith. They're too comfortable, and I think Dirk Cutter has trust issues. I don't know how Jacquizz Rodgers is still rostered on an NFL team personally. Mm-hmm. When it comes with Grimes, I think he's played solid for us. But what is he? 36 years old now?
63 maybe.
Maybe 63.
Yeah.
So it was a 1-year deal. They paid him nicely. I don't see. There's no reason in the world why he should have ever declined it. I think he knew it was coming because our secondary is so weak. I think there's other solutions, and obviously that's just a Band-Aid right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I think re-signing him was the right move at the right time. Because he was playing well towards the end of last year. He's certainly, he's been talking about retirement for a couple of years now. I remember even Miko sent out like a Snapchat or something last year of him kind of looking like he was bored, rolling his eyes with about 4 or 5 games to go. And she's like, when you realize that you only have to put up with this crap for a couple more weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
But they offered him some money to come back. And I think what we've seen out of Brent is I think we still currently see flashes of him, like of the Brent Grimes that we know and love and has been really, really good. But I do think we have seen a Brent Grimes that Father Time has finally caught up to. Or is catching up to. His fingers are starting to wrap around his jersey, if that makes sense. So, all right. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, obviously he's a guy that we brought back. My opinion, I think the opinion of most people is that we probably would not have brought him back if we didn't expect a suspension of Jameis Winston. They probably would have just rolled with Ryan Griffin as being the guy, but they brought back Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is now our starting quarterback again as we record this. So what do you think about that re-signing?
I mean, I love the Fitz magic. I think he's a great locker room guy. Definitely a great guy for Jameis, maturity-wise for Jameis. He's just an overall solid guy, family guy, and he has so much fun out there on the field. And I think a lot of Bucs fans have fallen in love watching him out there because, I mean, he's taking the team or taking the offense to where it should be. And the most frustrating thing is Jameis is not. And, I tweeted this out. I said, I don't want to completely give up on Jameis. But like Jameis Winston was supposed to be the Bucs next, Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck. Like that's what we all thought. And that's what we believed. And I think it's just so hard on the city and clearly Bucs Twitter. You can see the frustration. It's just crazy. It's really hard. I've been in a bad mood about it. It's just hard to let it sink in that he might not be the answer. And we all thought that we had the next guy, the next best guy. And it stinks, man. So I know I went a little off topic about Fitzpatrick, but I think Fitz, I don't know, man. I think he might possibly plays out the rest of the season, but you never know with Dirk. He's got a short leash.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, it's not even week to week; it's quarter to quarter for me anymore. To see what's going to happen, and I'll share more of those thoughts and kind of my whole feelings on the Jameis Winston, Ryan Fitzpatrick thing, and in the next segment that we'll do, where Ren and I will grade out the team. But But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, bringing Ryan Fitzpatrick back was the right thing. If he didn't have that good stretch of 3 games that he had that last season, I could maybe see not re-signing him, maybe looking for maybe another guy. But he did. He's been good around the team. I mean, I guess the other thing is he's familiar with the offense already, so you don't have to reinstall that in a new guy. It was right. And who in the world expected that start? Particularly those first 2 games. And then even the second half of that Pittsburgh game, who in the world expected that? So, I think that was a good signing. All right, let's move to some of the new guys on the team. Bo Allen, Mitch Unrein. Let's take those 2 together because I think they were signed almost virtually at the same time.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are obviously both depth pieces. Unrein, I don't think we can really talk much about yet because we haven't seen anything because of the injury. Mm-hmm. And then Bo Allen, I think, is a solid depth guy. I don't think he's anything. I think he's a good player. He's obviously a great guy, and I like the signing. I think it's a solid signing.
Yeah, I think Mitch Unrein, again, it's hard to say, it's hard to evaluate because he's been in the concussion protocol, and it looks like he's going to have one of those concussions that's going to last for months, not just come back in a couple of weeks, which is, I think, what most normal concussions are for normal people. And so I'm going to refrain from kind of judging on him, except for the fact that he completely snubbed me in training camp, and I'm just kind of pissed off at him. But other than that, I can't evaluate his play, or the signing of him. But Bo Allen, he's really one of those guys. He's not the go in, light it up, tear it up. He's going to be visible on every single play kind of a guy. I feel like he's probably an upgrade, certainly an upgrade over Chris Baker and what Chris Baker was to put out there on the field. And you remember how excited we were about him last year, but I'd say, Bo Allen's one of those like B-level players, which you need a few of those guys on your team, right? Like if you can get all A and B level players on your team, because the guy, who'd we have last year? We had Silver Salinga, Ryan Russell,
Clinton McDonald.
Now, Clinton McDonald, I wouldn't have minded keeping him around. He's another guy who's getting a little older. I would have
loved to keep him.
Yeah. He's a little guy getting older, so I kind of understand why they might have let him go. But, Bo Allen also bringing that Super Bowl winning experience anyway. I don't know how much it's rubbing off on the team. Defensive line so far 6 weeks into the season, let's face it, hasn't exactly been lighting it up. But you do get the feeling that they are performing at least a little bit better than what they were last year. So,
definitely.
All right, continuing with the defensive line, we'll also bring into this conversation Vin Curry, new defensive end, also coming in from the Philadelphia Eagles.
So with Vin Curry, I like him. I don't think he's, like you said, there's A and B players. I think he's another B player. Mm-hmm. I think Jason Light possibly. Actually, no, I definitely think he overpaid for Vinny.
Really? Okay.
I don't know what your take is on that. I know we're desperate for defensive line help. Uh-huh. I think he's a solid player, but I don't know. I still want to see more from him. Obviously, he's hurt too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't want to go, crazy hot take on that. But I could see that being him being a little overpaid. But once again, he came from the Eagles. He had a great career with the Eagles, and I hope it works out.
So, I don't know that I can say that he was overpaid. I'm actually trying to find his contract right now, just so I have that. But when you said you need to see more out of Vin Curry, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that because I think he's been good. He's been fine. Okay, they signed him. Looks like to a 3-year, $23 million contract. He's getting about $3 million this year.
So
next year it'll be 8. But he's getting $3 million, but then he had a $3.5 million roster bonus. So 6.5 this year. He get 8 next year and then 8.5 the following year. Considering the guy, now granted he's been out for 2 games out of 6 so far, 7 out of 7. So he's had 5 games. I just need to see more,
I agree completely. Yeah. I just need to see more. I don't want to go rush to anything on Vinny Curry right now.
Yeah.
I just definitely want to see more.
Yeah, I need to see more. So all of you who sat out and said, hey, You said 6 weeks. Well, remind me when we get to week 12. Let's come back and revisit Vin Curry because I just need to see more. I don't want to say that he's a bad signing. I like what he's brought to this team. I like the idea. I think actually more of what he's brought to the team. I just haven't seen it translated to the field just yet. Okay, let's stay with the defensive side. We'll wrap that up and then head over to the offensive side. Of course, the big defensive wasn't even a signing; was a trade. JPP traded him out for a 3rd-round draft pick that apparently we really missed this year. Do we really need to talk about him?
No, that was a brilliant move by Jason Light. Like, everyone's got to give some applause for that. That was maybe the best move Jason Light's made as the Bucs GM. I gotta say, JPP is a star, and he's going to continue being a star.
I'm trying to think through all the moves that Light has made. If JPP isn't the best, he's got to be top 2, maybe top 3 at worst. In that
Who do you have ahead of that?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to think. It's not Roberto Aguayo. It's not Chandler Catanzaro. I mean, let's see here. He locked up Gerald McCoy way back in his first year. Yeah. He did, he's re-signed some of his guys. His number 1 draft pick in Jameis Winston's in question right now, so you can't hardly throw that one in there. Yeah, I mean, you could be right. He really could be the single best move that Jason Light's made in this game.
I think in my mind, 100% is the best move he's made.
Yeah. It's no question. You wonder if the Giants guys aren't just slapping their forehead saying, "Why did we let him go?"
I didn't get it. I mean,
yeah,
JPP's worth more than a 3rd-round pick, so.
Yeah.
Once again, great move.
Yeah. And I don't follow the Giants. I don't care about the Giants. So, I don't care I understand it's a dumpster fire up there right now. So, but I mean, he's certainly leading our team in sacks. He has more sacks by himself this year than any player has had than any player had last year for sure. So and he's on pace, I think, to hit 16, 17 sacks this year. So
can I jump in about that Giants dumpster fire?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Okay. I don't want to go too off topic, but I thought if the Buccaneers right now are claiming, they're not trading Deshaun Jackson because they're in win now mode.
Sure.
How in the world do we not try to get a secondary piece or 2 from the Giants? Whether I know Janoris Jenkins has a high price tag. Mm-hmm. Landon Collins in his last year, there's got to be a way you could land Landon Collins for the rest of the year if you're in win now mode. That's something I don't understand. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know if the Glazers are like, no, you can't use draft capital. I don't believe that. I think these guys are literally their jobs are on the line. And I was so surprised that they didn't make one move to help the secondary.
Yeah, my response to that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I know a lot of people are talking about that. The trade deadline met yesterday at 4:30 or something like that, 4:00, and Bucs didn't do anything. And I'm with you. I would have loved to have seen the Bucs be able to do something. The only thing that I can say, and I'm not defending it, the only thing I can just say is maybe they did try, and maybe the price tag that everybody wanted to get out of the Bucs was too high. Maybe they saw where the Bucs were and thought that they could fleece Jason Light for something more than what he was willing to give up. So it's I don't want to say that the Bucs didn't try to do something.
I know for sure Jason Light tried to get Patrick Peterson. The Cardinals just weren't going to sell him. I mean, Jason's he knows that Arizona organization very well. I know he's a huge fan of Patrick Peterson. I know for a fact he's a huge fan of Tyrann Mathieu. I've actually spoken to Jason in DMs on Twitter. He's a great guy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Is he asking you for draft advice?
No, I wish, man. I told him I would work for him for free.
Nice.
But that's never going to happen.
Hey, while we're on this topic, though, okay, kind of a side note off of our normal conversation. Real quick, how would you evaluate Jason Light as a draft guy, as a drafter?
Okay, so I love Jason Light, but this last draft crushed me because I was there. Uh-huh. Like I said, I go every year. This draft I love the trade down with the Bills. Uh-huh. When they're on the clock, I'm like, this has to be the easiest pick to draft Derwin James. I'm not a Florida State fan. I told you I'm a UCLA guy. I just thought it was Minka Fitzpatrick was my favorite prospect over Derwin James.
Right.
And I've been talking about that on Twitter a lot. But, you know, a lot of the Bucs fan base is FSU, so they love Derwin. I thought either of those guys would have been an amazing pick. I just don't agree with drafting a 2-down nose tackle in the top 15. And my colleague Kyle Krabs kind of wrote about that in one of his articles on the Draft Network. It just doesn't really make sense. I hope Vita Vea becomes a great player. He has the potential to be so, but I just, with the talent on the board to take the nose tackle, who's not an every down player, I don't know. It was disappointing for me.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's come back to our conversation. So we're agreed. JPP definitely very much worth the third round draft pick. Just out of curiosity, do you know off the top of your head who the Giants drafted with that pick?
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, neither do I. Okay, I don't care either. All right, so that is the defensive side of the ball. Let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. We really only had one signing there. Ryan Jensen brought in as a center. I know he was a guy that we had been we had picked it up from actually Chris Fisher, formerly of Bucs Reef Podcast. He got on our radar through that way and kind of looked at him and went, man, we'd love to have this guy. So you love Ryan Jensen.
Oh, man, I love that guy. He is a mauler, and he brings that nasty attitude. It's awesome. I love him, and having Allie re-signed was huge. Ryan Jensen's a beast, man. We're lucky to have him. Yeah,
I 100% agree with you on that. And then maybe on a more somber note, the final free agent signing that we had in this offseason, Chandler cannot kick Enzaro.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I compare these kickers to golfers. When your confidence is shook, you're going to shank it. And that's clearly what's happening right now with him. And it's a lot of pressure in the NFL to be a kicker. I have no idea why Cairo Santos isn't our kicker right now. That's beyond me. I have no idea how that move didn't get made.
Right.
I'd also be on the lookout to see if Matt Bryant comes back for the Falcons, if we could sign that kicker that was kicking in his place. I think he's a pretty solid dude. I don't even know how to say his name. What is it like Tavat? I don't even know, but that could be someone to look out for. But yeah, Chandler's not been great.
Right? No, he's not. He's not.
It's the Bucs kicking curse. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's getting rid of Matt Bryant. Bucs kicking curse.
Right. You're right. Yeah, it certainly has, because you go back even before that. We had what was his face? Kyle Brenza. Now we had Connor Barth in between. Connor wasn't horrible, but we had Kyle Brenza, and then it's not been okay. So those are our free agent signings. Those are really our, my thoughts. I think we're pretty similar down the line there. Had a couple good ones, had some ones we really can't judge yet, and then really one just big absolute stinker.
Yeah,
and one that just got old on us. So, all right. Now let's turn our attention to the draft picks, and you kind of actually previewed this for us just a little bit. Bucs went into this past draft. I believe it was pick number 7, maybe number 8, somewhere around there. We wound up trading down to pick number 12, if I remember right, and we chose Vita Vea.
Picking that 7 one. Yep.
Now, when we did that, now you help remind me. We traded down and we wound up picking up an extra pick late in the second, I believe it was.
We picked up 2 second-round picks.
2 second-round picks, that's what it was.
Yeah.
To trade down a couple spots. First of all, what did you think of that move, the trade down to pick up the 2 extra later? So turning 1 pick in the first round to really 3 picks overall.
Well, at first it made me nervous because I'm like, oh, man, we're going to miss out on Derwin James. Or Minka Fitzpatrick. I knew Fitzpatrick wasn't going to be the pick. No one had talked about him. The guys at Pewter Report, Scott Reynolds, they're always plugged in. They always know who's on the Bucs' mind, and they had been saying it repeatedly that Vita Vea was a fan favorite of the scouting department. So can't say I was surprised with that.
Yeah. So Vita Vea is there now. How do you evaluate Vita Vea? He gets injured, gets a calf tear. I think they actually say he tore his calf muscle. Loses a bunch of weight, but he's had a couple of games under his belt. How do you think Vita Vea is working out so far?
He's definitely a monster on the field. You can see how strong he really is. I think he's just so close to getting some sacks. He's got to reach that arm out.
Yeah.
I think he focuses a little bit too much on the lineman that's blocking him, and he needs to kind of, be more aware of where the ball is going to be and whatnot. So we'll see where that goes too.
Yeah, Vita Vea is he's one of those, to me right now, he looks like he's playing like a rookie.
Definitely.
And if you're okay with a first round pick, especially a high top 15 first round pick playing like a rookie in their rookie year, which there's something to be said for that. But a lot of people also want these guys to come out and perform immediately, right away, and make a huge difference. And there's something to be said for that as well. Vita's not necessarily your guy on that. But for him to come out, I think the idea certainly was, he would kind of play on the second string line, I guess, the rotation line, learn the game, give him a year or two or whatever with, kind of to learn the defense. And then here in a couple years, we'll see him really just take off. I think that's the idea. So in some ways, I'm kind of saying it's a little early, but I am disappointed that he's not as much of a game changer, game wrecker, as you would expect maybe with somebody that high in the draft.
Yeah, Warren Sapp, I think, was quoted saying you don't draft a 345 defensive tackle from the West Coast if you're bringing him to Florida.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So you have that. And then, listen, we've certainly made our feelings known on the whole Derwin James thing here on the show, which is more of just I don't play the, man, we should have gone back and drafted this guy and woe is me, because honestly, there's nothing we can do about it.
Of course, it's history now.
But it does make it a little worse, or a lot worse, when your guy is performing like a rookie and the guy they could have taken that a lot of people wanted him to take is doing pretty damn well.
Yep.
So, whatever. So Vita Vea getting taken. I wonder if the other however many teams that selected before Derwin, if their guys are still doing that same thing. Oh, we should have taken Derwin. Anyway, second round pick, we dropped down. Ronald Jones, running back. He's finally gotten in the game. How do you think Ronald Jones is doing?
I don't think any of us should be able to be harsh on Ronald Jones, and I know a lot of people love to hate on Rojo. I think Rojo's going to be a stud. I think Dirk Cutter is a little stubborn in his ways, and really he has, like I said it before, he kind of has trust issues where he needs to know that Ronald Jones is be able to pick up a blitz. He needs to know Ronald Jones is actually going to catch the ball, and I think these things will happen. I think he's going to be really good. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see. I think Ronald Jones is playing like a rookie and coming into a team where you have a guy like a Peyton Barber who is going to be the number one back and has earned it and did really well last year. Peyton Barber is not going to go light up the stat sheet. He's probably not the guy you're starting in fantasy, but he's a solid enough guy, especially if he's running behind an offensive line that can do something. But even then, he's not typically losing you yards. So to bring in a Ronald Jones, I'm okay with the guy being a rookie and doing what it takes to go through those pieces. You referenced Warren Sapp. Of course, that was talked a lot about on Ian Beckles' show, and he often talked about rookies just don't make that much of a difference on a team. They really, very, very rarely does a rookie come in and do anything. So I'm really okay with where Ronald Jones is. What I really like about Ronald Jones is the improvement that we have seen out of him.
Definitely. There's confidence.
Yeah.
He's getting confident.
Yeah. He wasn't what we wanted week one, but and he may not even necessarily be what we want right now. But he is definitely, you see the strides, you see the steps. He is getting better. He is getting more confident. He is hitting harder. He's running faster. So I like where we're going with it. I'd love to just see this continue and see what happens as we go forward. Now, the next pick, we actually wound up with another second-round pick off of that trade. We drafted MJ Stewart next as a cornerback, nickel corner specifically.
Yeah, so MJ, I was very excited in the preseason. He had a great preseason. He was showing that he could, force turnovers. He had that Peanut Tillman almost punch jab down to like a science, but I think it's kind of shown. I don't think he has the athleticism to play that nickel position. I don't think he's fast enough.
Yeah. And this is why MJ Stewart specifically is why I said I can't evaluate these guys right now. We've got to give them time to see what they're actually like in a game, because you're right. I think he was a guy who was real quiet to me. I'd never heard his name before the draft, before we drafted him. And, as soon as I did, I kind of looked at him and was like, man, this guy's going to be a pretty good pickup. And then we saw him through OTAs. We saw him through the preseason. Like, all right, we can run with this guy. And VH3, is, he's going to start that nickel thing, but, MJ Stewart's right there to come in and do something. So this should be fine. And MJ Stewart got pressed into service. And as you're right, it turns out the athleticism part just isn't there. Now, do you foresee MJ becoming a better athlete, or is he at his physical limitations as an athlete?
I mean, I got to think. Sorry,
no,
I think I got to think he's at his limitations. I think possibly if there's a new regime that comes in Tampa, he could be moved to safety. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know. I just don't think he has the athleticism at all to play nickel. He's not. He gives up. He just can't cover those slot guys.
Yeah.
They're too fast in the NFL. It's different in college.
Yeah. So unfortunately, not the kind of player that we were looking for. I hesitate to call all of these guys bad picks. And I say on the show all the time, you have to judge a decision by the information that the person had at the time, not in hindsight. You can't do that. So, was signing Mitch Unrein the right decision, even though he's been in concussion protocol and hasn't actually worked out for us? Yeah, probably. Given what he had, seems like a good fit. It wasn't for too much money. Seemed like a good signing. It just hasn't worked out so far. So, we'll see. And I think that's kind of this thing with MJ Stewart. He might have been a good draft pick at the time. It just evaluating him as an acquisition, I'm not putting any cash on him, Yeah. Now, after that, we made another trade. I think this one was with the Raiders or someone, the Bills. I don't remember exactly who it was with, but we wound up trading this second pick and picked up another second round pick just a few picks later. But we also picked up, I believe, a fourth round pick.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And
something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with that next pick, we picked up Carlton Davis III.
Love Carlton. I think he's going to be a stud.
I have a question. Sure. How come MJ Stewart was drafted before Carlton Davis?
I think that's a question a lot of people have. Carlton Davis, I don't know how he lasted that long. He's everything you want in an NFL outside corner, press man corner. I mean, I think he's going to be a beast.
Yeah. I think Carlton Davis is another one of those guys. When I watch him, I like him. I'm excited by what I see. He also still very much looks like a rookie to me, but he looks like a rookie who is going to do something.
Yeah, he's a rookie that is going to have a bright future.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited for where Carlton Davis goes. We actually have an autographed Carlton Davis rookie card that is up for grabs in our Pewtercast Fantasy League this year. So awesome. We'll see who wins that here as we get towards the end of the year. So yeah, I'm right there with you on Carlton Davis. He's great. Now, that fourth round pick that we had, wound up trading that and trading up or something, traded back into the third round because we didn't have a third round pick. And right there at the end of the third round, we picked up right guard out of a D12 school. I mean, it was low. Was D3, I think is what it was.
I think Humboldt State.
Yeah, Humboldt State. Alex Kappa coming in as an offensive lineman. Haven't really seen much out of him outside of preseason this year, but how do you think that acquisition's been?
I think that was another one of those. So obviously Ali Marpet coming from Hobart, D3. I think it was another one of those chances that Jason, we don't know how good he's going to, he definitely just needs to learn a lot. He definitely has all the physical traits. I think a lot of people were impressed with him at the Senior Bowl where he was against top competition. So I really hope that works out because the right guard position is killing us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Killing us. So you got to have some hope that he's going to turn out to be something nice. I know in the preseason I saw him get beat quite a bit, but I just think he's got a lot of time to grow, and it's not D3, it's the NFL.
Yeah. I like this acquisition. I like Alex Kappa on this team. I think this was probably a good acquisition at the right time. Honestly, Alex Kappa probably would have gone a little bit lower, I think. I mean, I don't know what other teams were looking at doing.
For sure.
So was he worth a trade up for? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But, I like having him on this team. I like having him as that future piece to develop. I just wish that he would personally develop a little bit faster and earn that right guard spot away from Caleb Benenoch because, as you said, that is killing us. And I just want to see him I want to see him get better. But I mean, as a late 3rd round pick to allow a guy to develop as a rookie, I don't think it's a bad acquisition. So we'll see. We'll see how he goes. He's going to have the bugaboo, though, I think, that Gerald McCoy does. Everything Gerald McCoy does, he's getting compared to Warren Sapp. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, Gerald McCoy will.
So now he has Ali Marpet.
Yeah, he's got Ali Marpet. Everybody's going to compare him to Ali Marpet just because of coming from, a lower division school. So we'll see. We'll see where he goes. All right. Another 4th round pick, though, and I don't remember if this was just one that we. I don't exactly remember how we got this, but this might have just been our normal 4th round pick. Jordan Whitehead, safety, drafted him, playing alongside Justin Evans now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's a solid guy. I think he's shown flashes of being a good player. I don't know. I don't know if he's the answer, but he's definitely playing well.
Yeah. It's we'll see. We'll see. I mean, to come in off of with an injured Chris Conte, and some people could say that he should have just been starting over Chris Conte anyway. I think he's doing well. I think he's doing fine. Again, he's not lighting it up. He's not Derwin James.
Exactly.
He's not.
That's what I didn't want to say it.
But I mean, for his draft status, that's fine. As you mentioned earlier, we still could use some help in the secondary. So, it's. I think he's okay as an acquisition. It's just we need. I'm a guy who loves Justin Evans, and a lot of people put shade on Justin Evans for his poor tackling, and he messes up on some plays. But I truly think Justin Evans is an elite center fielder. Like I've watched him since college. He changes games for teams. Like he makes picks in crucial situations, and I just think you got to put talent around that kid, like at strong safety in another corner. Like the more talent, like if we could have just possibly traded for Landon Collins and put Landon Collins next to Justin Evans, that would do wonders for him. And Landon Collins will be a free agent, and I don't know who's going to be in charge of the Bucs at that time, but I sure hope that we throw some money at Landon Collins in free agency. Try to get him down here. Yeah, because
he's a great leader too. I know that's going off topic. He's just I really wish that could have happened.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. All right, 5th round pick, Justin Watson, wide receiver, competing in an already pretty deep wide receivers room. How do you feel about him?
It looks like a great player. It looks like a solid wide receiver. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah. I think it was a great pick. I don't know that we're ever going to see Justin Evans climb the depth chart, but I certainly think he's an upgrade over a Freddie Martino or a Bernard Reedy. Or some of those guys. So I like Justin Evans on this or Justin Watson. I like Justin Watson on this team. When Deshaun Jackson isn't here anymore, whether it be this next year or the year after, for him to move up maybe to that number 4 spot. Sure, absolutely. I think we could potentially see that. All right, final guy, and we'll get out of here tonight, JC. Jack Sitchie, 6th round draft pick.
So, I think it's okay for us to draft him in the 7th round because it's a 7th round pick. I think he showed in college he's a great leader, but he had those injuries in college also. So clearly it was a risk pick. Like you just hope the injuries don't happen, and it happened. Yeah. It's tough. It is what it is.
Look, I tell you, he's such a late round. If you get anybody really past the 5th round that works out and makes the squad, every single one of our draft picks this year made the squad.
Yeah,
made the 53. That I don't know when the last time was that happened. It wasn't too super long ago, but it doesn't happen every year. Usually those
Jeremy McNichols,
Dan Vitale from a couple years ago, the kid from Hawaii that was a fullback that we got a couple years before that. So there's always somebody who doesn't make the squad. Or not always, but usually there's somebody who doesn't make the squad. Every single one of our guys made the squad, and Jack Sitchie even being one of them. So you can't hate on that. Just the simple fact that he made the squad, contributed on special teams. We heard Dirk Cutter tell him he's got to be the special teams ace, or something.
I would have loved to see us draft that huge Australian rugby player that is on the Eagles. Are you familiar with him?
No,
Oh my gosh, I met him the night of the draft after he got drafted. That guy is a monster, and I guess hearing from my colleague Benjamin Solak, I guess there might actually be a legitimate future for him on the offensive line. So,
wow.
Yeah. Little side
we could
note
definitely
there.
use some offensive line help for sure. You know, we got an aging DeMar Dotson over there, and you know, our right guard is suspect at best. You know, and
I like Donovan Smith.
I like Donovan Smith. I do. If we can upgrade him, I'm all for upgrading him. But I'm not going to kick him out the door either. Not without an upgrade. You know, I need a plan in place.
Is there an option for him? I mean, of course there's an option. I could see him as a right tackle.
Who, Donovan?
Yeah,
it's possible. Yeah, I mean,
because sometimes he does get beat. I think he's solid over there, but if there was an upgrade and you wanted to switch him to right tackle, I would have no problem with that.
I don't. If it's an upgrade, and that's, you know, and Ren says it on the show all the time, and I'll say, you know, that's great if you want to get rid of Donovan, but who are you going to replace him with? Because if you're gonna replace him in the draft, you're going to have to talk about a top 10 pick, right? A legitimate left tackle, top 10 pick, and those don't come around every single year.
No, they don't.
Then trying to get a guy out of free agency. These guys, you know, Donovan still is he in the top 15 of the league of left tackles? Probably.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, is he top 10?
He does his job well. His job well.
Yeah, but I mean, he's good for a couple of penalties a game, and he's probably going to let one sack go a game, and unfortunately, those can be costly. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that he is the best thing, but he's also not a swinging door.
Seems like a great guy too.
Sure.
I hope they re-sign him. I really do.
Yeah, I'm 100% there with you. I don't want them going out and leveraging something unless we get a serious upgrade, and I feel about that about everybody on the team. You know, like if we can upgrade a spot, I'm great with that. So, you know, but I'm not looking to kick Donovan out the door.
No, definitely not. And you never want to tell a guy like to switch to right tackle when he's a left tackle. You know, it's not the nicest thing in the world to say. And I almost want to take that back because I think Donovan's just a solid, awesome dude.
There you go. All right. So you guys make sure you go check out the draftnetwork.com. JC, man, thank you so much for your time and coming over here to help us kind of evaluate some of these Buccaneer players, man.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it.
Well, Ren, it is time for us to turn our attention to this Bucs versus Bengals game and really talk about all the final thoughts that we have on it, and we're going to grade out this game as well. So, Ren, I'm not really sure what else we can say about this game, but I'll put it to you first, man. Has anything changed since Sunday night from the Instant Cast for you? Any thoughts, maybe things we didn't get to talk about this game here versus the Bengals?
I've just been trying to wrap my head around, you know, sort of the response I've seen on social media from Bucs fans and even, you know, accredited media outlets. It's very surprising how fast a lot of people have turned on Jameis. Mm-hmm. You know, he's always had staunch supporters, and you could always have like an argument back and forth. Yes, 2 interceptions are too much, but he did this, you know, like the Cleveland game. Yeah, he threw 2 interceptions, but one was in the overtime, which they shouldn't have been in. And by the way, he led you down for the game-winning field goal again. You know, so you can have those arguments back and forth, and I think it sort of falls on if you believed in Jameis when he first got here, or at some point during his first, 3 years you'd given up on him. But with this 4 interception game, which was ugly, I mean, all of them were inexcusable and unforgivable for an NFL quarterback to throw those picks. I'm still shocked about how one game can totally just turn everyone's opinion. It's baffling to me. And so I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it. And here's what I got. I got that I think, and I'm reporters included, that everyone feels like they've been personally let down. Like Jameis Winston with that game broke their hearts. Like it was just like, it's like, I've been in your corner. I've tried to explain away things when people that I felt were irrational about, your play and your off-field behavior, and then you went and did this to me. Like you lost the game.
I got to tell you, I think that is a really astute and fair assessment because, to be honest, I feel the same way. Like what you just described, in a weird way, like this one feels personal for some weird reason. It just does. And I mean, you and I on this show have been two of the biggest and staunchest Jameis supporters. I think that overall we have been fair in our analysis of him over the last 3 years and change, going on 4 years.
We think it's fair. Other people may not, but you could always follow our logic at least.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah, you can be, okay, I don't agree with you. I think you are being unfair, but I see where you're going with this. I see how you got to point B from point A.
Sure. Yeah, so, but there is a little bit of, in a weird way, like Jameis just woke up and said, you know what? Screw Brent. Interception. Defend me again. See what happens. I mean, as ridiculous as that sounds, it does almost feel a little personally let down by this whole thing.
Yeah, everyone has sort of their straw that breaks the camel's back point on all different issues. Expanding, anything you can think of. There's always a breaking point for everybody, but there's usually sort of like a universal breaking point. And I think this was just the universal breaking point for people that were staunch Jameis supporters. I think a vast majority of them were just like, that's it. Like I have been behind you and defending you and propping you up and telling people just wait. And you spit in my face with this performance. And I think everyone's sort of taking it personally. And I think this 4 interception game and him being benched in the second half, and now that Fitzpatrick's taking over for the Carolina game, I just think it's way out of proportion. And I think everyone just needs to relax and really look at the situation and take a breath. Like back away as a Bucs fan and look at it from the outside. Like this is what I find. It's like It's the Jameis Winston career is over as a Buccaneer. Like I follow the logic. I just think I think people are just too close, have too much emotionally invested, and they just need to sort of just relax a bit. He threw 4 interceptions. That's what he did. And then because that's it. Because if you were a staunch supporter and you start backtracking to the Falcons game or the Browns game. Well, if you weren't giving up on Jameis then, if you were pro Jameis going in the Bengals game, all he did was throw in 4 interceptions and get benched. That's all he did. There's not this.
Well, I mean, you could make the argument, and you would have to clarify: is this the mindset of Coach Cutter, who, by the way, is the guy who benched him, right? Yeah. Like what got us to that point? Is it the mindset of Coach Cutter, or are we talking about the mindset of spectators? And I say that lumping in fans, lumping in people who aren't fans who are just watching from the outside, and lumping in our media people, people who cover this team professionally. So many spectators were calling for Jameis to be benched earlier in the game, or maybe at halftime, or to pull him out. And I think for a lot of those people, it wasn't just the 4 interceptions of this game. I think they start feeling the 10 interceptions over the last 3 games. I mean, Ren, that's a lot of interceptions.
I understand.
I mean, we have to admit it, right? Like we've got to call that. That's a lot of interceptions. Some of them might be his fault. Some of them might not be his fault. In fact, I will tell you, some of them aren't him. Some of them are.
Most of them are.
I mean, okay. What's the number? We say all 4 from the one from this past game were his fault. So that leaves 6. Out of the rest of those 6, is it an even split? You think 3 and 3?
I don't know.
Jameis versus.
Matter. I think you're kind of missing my point, though. My point is, it's yes, you were frustrated with him at the Falcons game. Yeah, you're frustrated with the Browns game, but you weren't ready to say his career as a Buccaneer was over.
That is a big jump. I will give you that. And what I'm saying is it's not just the 4 interceptions and his career is over. I think I think for a lot of the people who think that his career is over or should be over, it's kind of been building. It was the losing season last year. It was the Uber thing and the getting suspended thing, and then now he's come back out and he just these 4 games cumulatively, he's had times when he's looked amazing and he's had times when he hasn't. I do think that people are underestimating just how good Jameis was in the Cleveland game.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like, I really because when you kind of went on your little tirade after the Cleveland game and you talk about how Jameis put this team on his back and had to score 3 times in a row before it finally counted on the scoreboard or something like that.
Scored 3 touchdowns on one drive.
Yeah, right. Because they got called back or they whatever. That's pretty amazing. And that is the kind of quarterback that we want. And then you got to talk about the supporting cast around him. But then we go in and we have this. But I think for people that are saying that, it really is more than just this one game and these 4 things. I think for them it's a cumulative effect that was almost magnified by this game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was a tipping point.
Yeah.
It was a straw. I get it, but going from, hey, he's our guy,
mm-hmm.
to I don't want him on this team anymore,
mm-hmm.
for one game is and to be fair, not that he would have, but
mm-hmm.
he might have thrown 2 more picks, but they didn't let him finish the game.
Right.
He possibly could have gone down and got it close. I think it's a far stretch to say he would have tied it up like Fitzpatrick did,
mm-hmm.
based on the way it was going, but the game could have been a lot closer if or what could have been closer when he left. So it wasn't even a full game, and it's I want him off the team. And people who are there every day at One Buck Place are he's done. And I'm
mm-hmm.
Are you really? He's done? I don't I know on this cast I said I think 80% that Jameis has to start, and that was more of a future thing.
Right.
You have to see what you have. You're paying this guy $20 million, which I really don't think matters, but it's in the conversation. He's a franchise quarterback. You got a 5th-year option, and then you get to decide on him. I think this is a long stretch of games. Now, the hard part is what you're saying to the team and some of the fan base is, hey, we know Fitzpatrick is playing better with his offense right now this year, this first half of the season,
mm-hmm.
but you're not trying everything you can to win the game. But Dirk Cutter came out, made him the starter. I get it. You got to win games, and there's still hope in the locker room, and all, and guys are going to rally around Fitzpatrick. But then Dirk Cutter was extremely non-committal. It's he almost said this is not going to be the last time Jameis gets the ball this year. He almost said that. He's it's week to week. He's
mm-hmm.
right now it's week to week. And Jameis has nothing to blame but himself, because if he wouldn't got in trouble off season, we wouldn't have known how good Fitzpatrick was with this offense. And then so it's a really crazy, and then no one's even taken that into account, where you were this close to being kicked out of the league. They wrote that letter to Jameis or
mm-hmm.
To the press or whoever, an open letter was, you do this again, you're going to be suspended for a year and maybe indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you're taking your livelihood away from you, your love, your passion, and then the guy taking your job throws for 400 yards 3 times,
mm-hmm.
and then you have to come in at the Chicago game down by 4 or 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I know it's it's sort of some Bassinger said, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Bassinger, it was oh God, I always get his name, Versnick. Steve Versnick
mm-hmm.
said when we had him on last week, was these people aren't robots, Jameis likes to talk about, people like to talk about how he can compartmentalize, but that is a lot, man. That is, you've listened to me this past 2 weeks since Chicago game on this pod. I felt like every time I was on, I was yelling,
mm-hmm. Oh, you were, yeah.
Every time I was Ren, your turn to speak. Ah!
Right. No, what's actually really funny is it's like I could put my finger on a fader and like watch you slowly get amped up. Like I could just amp you up as the conversation would go.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's not taken into effect about his personal life. And now, he's, I don't know if he's quite married yet, but he's engaged and he has a kid, and now that's being taken away from you from your off-field behavior. You know how bad that has to make you feel as a person? That, all this stuff that I've promised her and all this stuff I was going to have in place for my newborn son is possibly in jeopardy because I'm a freaking bonehead. And then you go out and be a bonehead again? Like, it's, I think
he's got a lot. I mean, what you're talking about there is even what some other people talk. I mean, Jameis has a lot of pressure on him to go out and do well. He really does. Now, that shouldn't matter. I mean, or maybe it should. In
a normal year, I would totally. In a normal year, I would totally agree with you. But what Jameis, but once again, Jameis did to himself with Fitzpatrick starting off, and if you don't come out and start winning games, not only win games, you can't throw interceptions. Like we saw it. He won the Cleveland game and threw interceptions, and like Jameis almost lost the game for us. Oh, really? I thought it was the kicker. Or the Falcons game. Like we would have won the Falcons game when Jameis didn't throw those 2 picks. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was maybe the defense that gave up 21 points in the first 3 drives. Like, Oh, well, it's the 4th time I have the ball. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, you're down 21 points. I mean, that's not what happened because I think they scored a touchdown, maybe even first. But of course, the extra point was missed. So it's just this whole year, and it's now it's sort of a theme. Last year was a hurricane and Hard Knocks. Now this year it's suspension and Fitz. We've talked about, and I have especially talked about how great I think Fitzpatrick will be for Jameis Winston's career, sort of like calming him down, like a more Zen-like approach to the quarterback position. But man, this year it could be the worst thing that ever happened to Jameis Winston as a Buccaneer, having Fitzpatrick here. Because if it was Ryan Griffin, I mean, he's probably not going to put up those numbers,
Right.
He's not as charismatic, and guys don't like
he also,
him as much.
he also doesn't have 14 years of NFL experience. I mean, Fitzpatrick for all of his stuff is benefiting a lot from 14 years of experience. I mean, he truly is that veteran presence and that veteran deal in the locker room. Ren, I hear what you're saying. I've spent a lot of this week, or these last couple of days, thinking about and I can't say I've been reviewing because it'd be a whole lot of podcasting, but thinking about all the stuff that we have said over the last couple of years about Jameis on this show, and more specifically here in the last couple of weeks, because I think you're right to go back and put the blame of all of these losses of Jameis's career. Right? Like, I mean, in the end, I don't have the number. I probably should have it pulled up somewhere, but his record's something like what, 19-29 or something like that. Good. Yeah, it's not good. The losses certainly outweigh the wins. But we have, I think when Jameis has been at fault for bad play, I think we have fairly assigned that fault. But we also know that Jameis hasn't been helped out by a whole lot around the team. Now, and we all sit here and scratch our heads to go, okay, I mean, last year and then this year again, on paper, this team should be a playoff team. Like, you look at the roster, you look at who we have, you even look at what we had last year. We should have been in the playoffs last year, undoubtedly. But for whatever reason, it didn't work, right?
I think we put a little too much. We thought the rookies were going to contribute a little earlier, but
and we thought that the free agent signings last year, especially, were going to be, oh my God, and not just us, everybody, national media, local media, fans, the team itself, Chris Baker, TJ Ward, whoever else we got out there. Yeah. Maybe with Nick Folk is going to settle down the Aguayo thing, and we're going to have a kicker. And, we've got Robert Ayers coming back who, he's old, but we got this thing, and Brent Grimes is back for his last year in his contract, and blah, 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 was going to be great. And we went 5-11. And then we come back and we say, this roster this year in 2018 is even better than the one we had last year, at least that we thought we had last year. And
I think we're much more tempered this year.
I absolutely think we're much more tempered.
But then we went on a start, and it was like, Ooh, we got.
Right,
Ooh.
exactly. And I would agree. I still think that the roster we have this year is better than the roster we had last year. And it's still something to be very, very excited about. But, at the end of the day, and people can say what they want to say about this when I say this, but I'm going to stand by everything that we have said on this show about Jameis. Now, where do we go from here? And what do we do from here, given what's going on? And this is where I've kind of come down to. And, because you're right. Like on the Instant Cast, we spent a lot of time talking about, well, what about the future? We got to see what we've got invested in this guy. And, what happens when Fitzmagic goes cold again? Because guess what? It's probably going to go cold again. Right. Mm-hmm. My guess is, honestly, it'd probably be sooner rather than later. I don't know that it even lasts 2.5 or 3 games this time. It might not. I don't know.
Panthers got a really good defense.
Our defense is still suspect. I know Mark Duffner's been this like shot of injection, but I mean, okay, so we went from 31 to 29? I don't know where we actually rank right now, but I mean,
defense still gave up 30 points.
Exactly. And we gave up all those points to the Cleveland Browns the week before and let them come in and tie the freaking game, Yeah. So defense is still suspect. Our kicker situation is still suspect. Chandler Catanzaro, as we record this episode, is still on this roster, and there is no other kicker in the building. And our injured reserve list is about as long as my left leg right now. It feels like, and we've got a lot of guys on injured reserve. It seems like a lot of key guys.
You're pretty tall too.
And I'm pretty tall, exactly. Okay, big font and really big font. It's
okay.
With Comic Sans,
Arial 30 points.
Right.
Comic Sans even better.
But I stand by where it says now. I think personally, starting Fitz in Carolina is the right call. What I did see on the rewatch of the game, and this could be me interpreting something on top of what I was seeing. It did seem to me like the demeanor and the attitude of the offense did seem to shift a little bit when Fitz got in the game. It didn't feel like a backup coming into a game where the offense was like, okay, we've got to carry this guy now. We've got to step it. Like, they just seemed to click with Fitzpatrick for whatever reason for this particular half of a game or third of a game, however long he was actually in. I do kind of start to wonder what some of the other players maybe really think, what they think of Jameis versus what they think of Fitzpatrick. Both of the guys, I think, can do some incredible stuff, and both of the guys can be really, really bad. I think people might be I think people might be so pissed at Jameis that they're ready to say, just give Fitzpatrick the team for the rest of the year, no matter what happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm not there. If Fitzpatrick goes in and he balls out, then give him the next week. And if he goes in and balls out again, then you give him the next week. And if he goes in and balls out again, you give him the next week. What happens when he doesn't ball out? Do we drop him and go back to Jameis? I don't know. Like, here's the deal. You and I don't have to make that call. Coach Cutter has to make that call. And here's, I think, my final thought on this whole deal. And there are people who love Jameis, don't like him. They love Fitzpatrick. Maybe I haven't seen too many people who don't like him right now, but he's the hot thing. Here's the thing. We say on this show all the time, as fans, we care more about the name on the front of the jersey than we do the name on the back of the jersey, right? Yes. We're fans of the Buccaneers, which means for me, I am a fan of the Buccaneers. I pull for the Buccaneers. So whomever the Buccaneers trot out under center, whether it's Jameis Winston or Fitzpatrick or Ryan Griffin or freaking Adam Humphries lines up under center, I don't care. You know what? That means I'm there that game, if they're at home, and if they're not at home, I'm in front of my TV, and I'm pulling for whoever that guy is. I don't give a shit at this point about saving Dirk Cutter's job or who's in the draft next year or saving Jason Light's job. I don't really even care right now much about the postseason. I don't care much about who are we playing after Carolina. Washington. I don't care about Washington. I don't care about the second Saints game. I don't care about the second Falcons game. I don't care about the second Carolina game. I don't care about that. You know what I care about right now? Like as it is right now on this particular day that we're recording this, I care about this Carolina game. And I want to win this game. And when we're done with this one, I want to win the next one. And when Dirk Cutter gets out there and he says, I'm going to play the person that gives us the best chance to win. And it's a week-to-week thing. People can just say, oh, that's coaches speak. Oh, that's whatever. I'm actually kind of riding on that. If we go out, and I think right now, given all the information that we have, that we can see, it seems like Fitzpatrick is probably the best person to start in Carolina. Mm-hmm. Now, when we get through the Carolina game and we see how the Carolina game unfolds, we'll reassess that next week and we'll see, is it Fitzpatrick still? And if it is, then great, let's roll with Fitzpatrick. If it's not Fitzpatrick, then I'm okay going back to Jameis because I don't know that his career is done yet in Tampa Bay.
No, it's not.
You know? And if they inactivate Jameis and they reactivate Ryan Griffin, which I don't think anybody has mentioned as a possibility because I don't think it's remotely there, but let's just say it happens, then you know what? And Fitzpatrick goes cold and they put in Ryan Griffin, then I'm cheering for Ryan freaking Griffin to go all the way. You know, and here's the deal. I don't care what happens. Like, I'm sorry. Jameis is a good guy. I don't care what happens with his career. I don't care what happens with his contract next year. I'm worried about this. Let's put the best person in who's going to win now. I don't care about all that other stuff. So if Fitzpatrick is the right guy right now, awesome. When we get through Carolina, let's talk about it and see who's going to be the best person for Washington. Is that the right?
I don't know.
I think it's Washington. And then after we get through Washington, we'll talk about the 49ers. And after we get through the 49ers, we'll talk about the Giants. Actually, I think it's the Giants first. And then, but you see what I'm saying? Like, we just go week to week. And if it's Jameis one week and he comes back and he's going to give us the best shot, then great. And here's the deal. I don't even care if and you guys are going to think I'm crazy because I probably am. I don't even care if we flip-flop in the middle of the game. Make them rotating like we do Evan Smith does at guard. Don't really do that, okay? But what I'm saying is, whatever it takes to win this game, screw all the other stuff. Screw what the Glazers have invested in somebody. If this is what it takes to win this game, then do that. And let's win this game. And then, you know what's going to happen? If we start winning these games, you start stacking these W's, you start whatever, guess what? Jobs are going to be saved. We'll talk about contract stuff when it comes time in the offseason. We'll get to those kind of, what do we do? Do we shuffle people around? We'll actually have more information with which to deal with and to talk about than what we have right now. And that, I think, is my final thought on this whole Jameis Winston Fitzpatrick thing, at least for this week, Ren.
I like it. I want people, if they could just go back 15 seconds and listen, you could hear the pencil hitting the desk as Brent threw it down. And that's my final thought. Yeah, we switched chairs tonight, haven't we?
Go ahead. Give me a crazy fan theory. Go.
So if Harry Potter was a quarterback, would you draft him number 1?
No.
Yeah, of course not. Okay.
No, but I'll never understand how Harry Potter never became a professional Quidditch player. With as good as he was, I'll never understand. His wife did. Why? How didn't he? I don't know. Go ahead. Go on.
Yeah, let's go on. I like it. And I've been guilty of it. Everyone's been guilty. Well, I don't want to say everyone but a lot of us has been guilty of it. And you're exactly right, because that's what we're thinking. We're thinking, oh my God, you bench Jameis Winston. What's the future mean for Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
And Dirk Cutter basically came out in the press conference and said, I don't worry. I don't care about that stuff. You know what I'm worried about? I'm worried about the Carolina game. And that's why Fitzpatrick is playing.
Right.
Because we think as an organization, I get the final vote, but we think as an organization that Brian Fitzpatrick gives us the best chance to win next week. It is an extremely rare and difficult situation that the Bucs were put in this year because of Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. And surprise, surprise, it didn't work out like it does in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. There's still some bumps in the road, and there's lots of story to be written. But yeah, man, just take a breath. We're playing Carolina.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. If it's you got to win one game and it's Sunday and it's against Carolina and this is your team, who do you start? I start Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. Because I know, but there's two reasons. One, I trust him more with the football because Jameis is in some kind of funk right now. And two, if Fitzpatrick pulls the Steelers, Jameis can come in and make all the throws and move the offense well enough to possibly do what Fitzpatrick did in Cincinnati. It's like, so, I mean, I'm with you, man. I like it. Like, let's not worry about the future. Let's not worry about the contract. I'm just aping what you said now, but it's let's worry about the Panthers and their defense and our defense. Hey, what about our defense?
Exactly. And so somebody brought up on the Instant Cast, okay, play it forward, right? Doing that play it forward thing, all right? So we get rid of Jameis. Well, there's not really a good quarterback coming out in this year's draft. Okay, again, I say, we'll worry about that when we get there. We get to the end of the season. We see how Fitzpatrick and Jameis both have been playing. What do? Maybe we just keep Fitzpatrick and Jameis both for next year. They're locked into a $20 million thing for Jameis. Whatever. They've got him. Screw it. He'll be here. They'll get Fitzpatrick back, probably sign him for a bit more money. And then if we had to go through 2019 with these two guys, as long as they're winning, keep it up. That's fine. I don't care. And then maybe we'll look at the draft situation again later. Or maybe, I don't know. There's so many maybes. Right. And I kind of get when Dirk Cutter comes out, he's like, it's too early to talk about this. It's too early to get there. There's too many things. And we all kind of like, yeah, okay, but Dirk, we want to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like Dirk saying, you remember that last year? He's like, guys, don't get too hype yet. Don't get too hype yet. We got a lot of football to get through. And we're like, yeah, but we're going to do it anyway. And then, we fall on our faces at 5-11 last year, and this year it's, well, what are you going to do going forward? What are you going to do going forward? And, Dirk Cutter's like, who knows? And, we'll take it they preach it in the locker room. And that's why these guys, the players, ape it when they get in front of the media. Guys, listen, we take this one game at a time. You can't worry about the second Carolina game before you play the first Carolina game. So this is what it's going to take for us to win this game. We'll go forward and we'll reassess and make a decision later. And kudos to Cutter for not falling to the pressure of committing to somebody. When he came out after the game and they were like, so are you going to start Fitzpatrick next week? And he said, I don't know yet. It's too early to make that. I've got to look at it first. He didn't commit to Fitzpatrick, but he also didn't commit to Jameis. He said, I think exactly what he meant. He's like, I got to go look. I got to think about it. He probably got to talk to Jason Light and the Glazers about it. I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet. Get the brain trust involved. So, all right, Ren. Well, with that, let's grade out this game as best we can anyway. What do you got for grades? Offense, defense, special teams, and then overall?
A's across the board. I'm giving the offense I got to give him a C+. I want to give him I'm giving him a B-. And
okay,
even though Jameis, with 4 picks, none of them were anybody else's fault. Like there was no wrong route. There was no tip ball. There was no, the offensive line is starting to become more and more worrisome every game. But the running game showed up. This was a really beat up Cincinnati's Bengals defense, though. It really was. But at the end of the day, we still put up 34 points, 33 points, in regulation, and turn over the ball 4 times without getting any. I mean that's like amazing. It's amazing to put up that many points and turn the ball over without getting any turnovers back. So offense played really well. I thought the second half they shut them out to that last drive. The no turnover thing really hurts the defense. They had a pretty bad second quarter, sort of let Joe Mixon run wild, but then again, they shut him down. Our defense is beat up. They were missing 3, 4, 5. Now we have 5 starters out. On
IR, yeah.
Well, not on IR.
Not on IR, but yeah. Between IR and just the...
And McCoy and Curry.
Yeah.
We got 5 starters out. So, but then at the end of the day, even if you take off Jameis's pick, they still gave up 30 points. They put the team behind the 8 ball at halftime, as they've done just I think every single week, except for maybe the Phillies game, or the Phillies,
the New Orleans game.
No, the Eagles game, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah,
the Philly game. So I'm giving them a C. Special teams, like I don't even want to talk about special teams anymore. Like it's just comical at this point.
Yeah, it's hard for me when I think about the special teams because there's Chandler Catanzaro, and then there's everyone else.
Yeah, it's kind of like the offense this week.
Yeah.
Well, if it was for Jameis Winston, you guys get A++, but guess what?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did he do? Miss like 17 extra points and pushed a lady in a wheelchair down the stairs? Is that what he did this week? Thankfully for Catanzaro, the Bucs really weren't chasing that point. It would have been nice to have it, but they weren't chasing it because the Bengals kicker missed an extra point as well.
Mm-hmm.
God, punts weren't awesome. Return punts were not that good. Our punt coverage was not that good. Like we didn't have anybody near around their guys when they had quite a few returnable punts. With Jaquiz Rogers back there on kickoffs, it's never going to be anything special. So I guess I'm going to give him a D+. That's more of a cumulative grade because it's like, well, look, Catanzaro missed another one. Yeah, that should only be really a C-, but since you keep doing it, it's a D+. And yeah, so nothing special and actually sort of lackluster, below average on punt coverage last week. So overall, I don't know. I've given it a D- because
wow. Okay.
Because it's just personal. It just is.
Okay.
Like, I guess you could say it's a C. You scored 30, but you gave up 30. You had 4 picks, but hey, you almost won the game. You didn't get any turnover. It's so like one. There's no middle in this game. It's like special teams were bad, offense was great. Defense was bad half the time, but besides the offense being great, you turned over the ball 4 times, which didn't help. It's just such a hard game to accurately grade, but taking into account how this one made me feel, this is a D- feely grade. It was just
these grades are always subjective; they're not necessarily objective.
It was so disappointing, that game. And then I think all the reaction on social media is sort of skewing it for me too. And like I talked about earlier, I don't want to say in disbelief, but I'm just really surprised how many informed fans are just like, I'm done with him, get him out of here. Like writing articles about your career as a Buccaneer is over, and then in the same breath going, he's going to be a good quarterback from somebody else. Then why are you?
Yeah.
Why are you getting rid of him then?
Yeah.
I know he broke your heart. He broke mine too. But Jesus, man.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just going week to week with these guys, and right now it's where we are. My grades. Offense. I'm going to cheat a little bit here, Ren. It's kind of funny what you just said because I'm going to split them. Jameis gets an F. The rest of the offense gets a B.
Nice.
I mean, I cannot penalize the rest of the offense for what Jameis did.
Actually, you can, and I think those are kind of the rules. But okay,
this is my show. I make the rules.
That's your new favorite saying.
You can change the rules too. But anyway, Jameis gets an F, and it's for all the right reasons and all the reasons you think it is, and that is my. For people who want to accuse me of not being fair and being biased and being whatever, Jameis gets an F. But the rest of the offense, as you said, this offense still put up 34 points. And in a normal year of football, that ought to be enough to win the game.
And they turned it over 4 times.
Like,
that cannot be overlooked.
Do you remember how freaking exciting this offense looked once Fitzpatrick came in?
Yeah.
I mean, they looked like a professional, love these guys. No, They're awesome.
They look like the Florida Gators under Spurrier is what they look like.
I mean, my God. Defense. Let's move on to defense. I'm going to give the defense a C-. Right? There was nothing spectacular about what they did. I didn't think they played lights out. I didn't think that they fell on their faces like they did in the Atlanta game.
No, they started out strong.
Yeah.
It's really like you watch the defense in the first quarter and the second half, and you're like, how did these guys get like 38 points or 36 points?
Right.
I understand 7
Right.
Was,
well, and that's the thing. And this is where, I think Jameis kind of bit them a little. Well, I don't know. I mean, it was only 2 turnovers in the first half, but I remember thinking in the first half, if this keeps up, the turnovers or the quick 3 and outs or maybe not even 3 and out, but say 4 and out, 5 and out, whatever it is, if this keeps up, and because it did seem like the Cincinnati Bengals were putting together longer drives than what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were. And I just remember thinking, I was like, man, this keeps up. By the end of the second quarter, this defense is going to look like it's the end of the fourth quarter, like just being ragged, being tired. So for all of that, I gave them a C-. It wasn't good. I mean, this is not the defense played great today. No, they didn't. No, it was mediocre. It wasn't the worst though. I don't recall any really super big deep bombs. They didn't get any takeaways though. I don't know. It's hard for me to grade defenses this year because everybody seems like they're just having big high flying offenses and scoring 45 points a game. Anyway, defense gets a C- for me. Special teams, I'm giving a D. It's just a D, and it's mostly based off Chandler Catanzaro, but also on the other side, like, Brian Anger was, he was okay. He was fine.
Coverage was bad.
Do what?
Coverage was bad.
It's
the first time I noticeably looked out there and went, I wish we had Josh Robinson.
Yeah. Brian Anger has not looked the same since Josh Robinson's not been on this team for coverage, like between him and Ryan Smith.
I don't think it's Brian Anger's fault. I think it's they're just not getting. And I think it's a Russell Shepard actually in there too. I think Russell Shepard and Robinson were, because they were on top of the guys.
Yeah.
And for the past couple games, the punt returner is catching it, and more times than not, like 70%, like more times than not, he has room to run when he catches the ball.
Yeah, closest person's still 10, 15 yards away.
And somebody just like standing there going, I'm making you fair catch this.
Right. And I tell you, I've watched Brian Anger live. He's still kicking those bombs. He's still putting them as high as he needs to. Like, he's hanging them out there as long as he needs to. Just guys aren't getting down there fast enough for whatever reason.
Wouldn't that be nice if that was really our only problem?
That'd be so great.
What's wrong with your team? Well, they're not making people get fair catches.
I got to tell you, though.
Come on, Jason, do something.
I do wonder if the winner of this year's Pewtercast Award for Special Teams Player of the Year might just possibly be Garrison Sanborn, long snapper. He's be the best guy we can talk about.
He's in the lead. Jesus.
First time a long snapper's ever won Special Teams Player of the Year.
I guess right now I would probably have to vote for Anthony O'Clair right now.
Yeah, we could look at that. We'll talk about that when that time comes for the Pewtercast Awards. Everybody getting pewties. Pew, pew. Overall, I'm giving the team a C. This was an average performance by this team. They had their ups, they had their downs. They had some great moments, and they had some really not good moments, and they kind of balanced each other out. So, to me, I'm giving this team a C.
Yep.
That's it right there. Yep. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for us for this half of the Final Thoughts show. So what'd you guys think? Do you agree with this? Anything that maybe we said, anything that JC said, how we graded out the offseason acquisitions? Maybe how we talked about the final game. I mean, really, our final thoughts are like everyone else's, is still consumed with this whole Jameis thing. What'd you guys think about that? Or do you agree or disagree with the grades that we have given? Let us know. You can find us on Twitter at the Pewtercast or on Facebook.com/thepewtercast, or shoot us an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com. We do get to those emails later on in the week. We have some that actually came in last week after we recorded our show. So we'll get to those in the second half, plus new emails from our friends. That'll be coming up here in the second half of this week's episode. But Ren, for right now, why don't you tell the folks out there where they can find you on the internet?
Best way to find me is on Twitter, at Rendax, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk some Buccaneers football. And if you don't want to at me because you don't want to put it out there on Twitter sphere, you can always go in my DMs. Just please don't talk about Jameis right now. I just can't. I'm still not there yet. If you're going to yell at me about it. I'm just kidding. I'll have conversations about Jameis now. But hey, I told you off air, I just got some glasses,
Yeah.
I got 2 pairs coming.
Yeah.
And there was an option to get like something inscribed on the inside or the outside on the bar, and both pair are coming with Rendax.
Nice.
Across.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Nice.
One's like pretty, like one's just a pair of glasses, little. I don't want to really say conservative because they're all clear, and then I got one that are like yellow with green tinted lenses, and those are going to be my fun glasses.
If you guys want to get a hold of me, I'm at Brent Allen Live across all the social medias. And once again, the show is at the Pewtercast on Twitter and on Facebook. thepewtercast@gmail.com is the email address. You can support the show at patreon.com/thepewtercast. And we'll be back with you guys here in just a couple of days for the second half of this Final Thoughts episode. We'll be coming at you with all the thoughts that your fellow fans have had about this game. So stay tuned for that. And until then, go Bucs.